In this video, we will help you understand the process of vendor assessment. Vendor validation is mandatory for all sellers in GEM. One component of vendor validation is vendor assessment, which is mandatory for certain sellers. At present, vendor assessment is done by Quality Council of India. The QCI vendor assessment is online. The vendor assessment fee, as published, has to be paid directly to QCI. Once the application for vendor assessment is completed in the portal and payment is made, seller will be contacted by QCI for further proceedings. The validity of vendor assessment is 3 years. Sellers are free to repeat the assessment even before the expiry of validity. Certain categories of sellers are exempted from vendor assessment. Application for exemption can be made in the portal. For vendor assessment, open gem.gov.in and click on the login. Enter the user ID, CAPTCHA and click on submit. Click on My Account to proceed. Under the My Actions tab, click on vendor assessment. Here you will see two options on the screens called assessments and assessment exemptions. Please note that if you fall in any of the exemption categories, you will proceed with assessment exemptions tab. And if you do not fall into any of the exemption categories, you will proceed with assessments tab. You may click on create new assessment after reading the policy document carefully. Select the format and click on the Initiate Vendor Assessment tab. A pre-filled form with seller profile information will open up. You will need to fill in the additional mobile number and additional email in the empty rows. Alternatively, click on the Save and Proceed tab to proceed. As shown, the bank details will also be auto-fetched by the system. Click on Proceed to proceed further. Next, add the category details to be verified. To upload a copy of documents like the trademark certificate, you may select the checkbox and upload the documents. You may click on Add Rows to list all your product categories. Next, add sold details to be verified. Click on the Save and Proceed tab to proceed further. The financial details will also be auto-fetched by the system for you. Click on Proceed to continue. Next, click on the Proceed to Pay tab to proceed with the payment process. Next, fill on your payment details and click on the Make Payment tab to proceed. You can view the request initiated by you here. If you do not fall under the exemption category, you may click on the Assessment Exemptions tab. Next, click on the Create Exemption Request tab to create an exemption request. Select the format for vendor assessment exemption. You may scroll down for the list of exempted vendors. Please make a note on the vendor assessment exemptions. Sellers having annual turnover of Rs 500 crore or more, at least in one of the latest 3 years as captured during registration. All sellers who are validated through PAN or GSTIN or MCA 21 and offering products of offer price Rs 25,000 per unit and whose annual transaction value in GEM is not more than Rs 5 lakh. Sellers who are offering products as OEM shall not be covered under this exemption. Sellers offering products like artwork, handicrafts and other such items where there is no standard manufacturing process exists. The exempted categories shall be specified by the category owner. Sellers who are registered societies or trusts, other bodies, if these concerns have government representation. KVIC, WDO, COI Board, TriFed. OEMs who are registered with NSIC for the category for which registration was obtained. This exemption will be coterminous with NSIC certificate validity. OEMs holding BIS license for the particular product category which are validated through BIS database. The normal validity for this exemption will be 3 years. Seller is mandated to notify GEM in case the cancellation of BIS license and exemption will be withdrawn. OEMs having unique certification code UCC issued by DRDO OFP, SITRA. This exemption will be coterminous with UCC certificate validity. Sellers recommended for an exemption for specific categories and specified validity period by any CPSE, central and state government departments or authorities. Any other category of sellers as notified with the approval of CEO GEM are exempted from vendor assessment. Click on the Request Vendor Assessment Exemption tab to proceed. You will have to upload the supporting document or certification by clicking on Upload Doc and click on Save and Proceed. Next, click on Submit. This is how your vendor assessment exemption request will be created successfully. You may note down the request ID for future reference. You can view your request here. Please note that the vendor assessment is carried out in 2 stages. Desktop assessment. Information and documents are submitted by the vendor, and if any discrepancy is found, then non-compliance would be raised. And video assessment. Video assessment is conducted by an expert using the mobile-based application through video calling. It will validate the entire process submitted by the vendor through documents in desktop assessment. This is the QCI's role post-vendor assessment submission. The vendor assessment will be assigned to QCI with a unique assessment number and will be visible in their vendor assessment panel on GEM. QCI will then initiate the assessment by sending an email to the seller's registered email ID detailing the process of assessment along with login credentials and update the status as pass or fail of assessment after completing the vendor assessment as per current process by digitally sending the parameters of the report and a PDF link of the report for the seller. QCI will also verify those sellers who have applied for an exemption and mark their status as pass or fail in GEM through their vendor assessment panel. The vendor assessment will be consumed by GEM as per the current process.